Hello Leo, and welcome to my channel Tarot by Gabrielle. This is going to be a general reading for Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus placements, looking at your connection between you and the person that you are dealing with and are needing to learn the most from right now. We'll be pulling for all three sides of the connection, so we're going to look at your energy toward it, their energy toward it, and the energy in between it. The concept being that there are three sides to every story, so we're looking at your version of the truth, their version of the truth, and this higher level unbiased truth in the middle. This middle section is looking at what is the deeper purpose of this connection and the best way for you to move forward in order to align further with your higher self. Friendly reminder that these are general readings and they are not here to resonate fully for everyone, and they won't resonate fully for everyone. So do please remember to take what does resonate and helps your personal situation and to leave what does not. On that note, and especially if you're a cross-watcher, just know that this whole reading can be reversed. If that is the case for you, that is totally fine and totally normal. Again, the point is to take what helps and leave what doesn't. Last thing is that any information on the extended reading or on booking a personal reading or coaching session with me is in the description box below. All right, Leo. As always, we're going to start with overall energy through oracle cards first, and then we'll dive deeper into the story with tarot as we progress. So let's start with your side of this connection, the person you are dealing with, Leo. Person you're dealing with and needing to learn the most from right now. All right, right out of the gate, you have separation. So obviously someone walked away from this. All right, you have grief and sadness. Oh gosh, okay, passion, euphoria, and contract with trapped. So obviously, like I said, someone walked away from this. And I do feel like you're in, this grief and sadness kind of energy, even if you were the one to walk away. Depending on the story and the situation, sometimes making the hard choice can still come with grief and sadness. I feel like this connection brought you a lot of really wonderful feelings. With this passion and this euphoria card, I feel like there were times where, it made you feel on top of the world even. But I feel like, things ended up as they did, in this separation. But I feel like you're still feeling trapped in the energy because you saw, especially this is I've never felt this way before kind of energy, right? Like sometimes we feel very trapped in the good, even if the bad did start to outweigh that. So I do feel like this is really a challenging time for you because obviously things, to say the least, did not pan out the way that you had hoped, the way that you had expected when it came to this connection. But let's look at this person's energy toward you. Breakups and makeups. What else? Drama. Interference. Is there one more? I feel like there might be one more specific card that I'm needing. Yeah, because there's the passion and then underneath the mirroring. So I feel like this person, I don't feel like this is kind of like an unrequited love kind of energy at all. I feel like this person did, maybe even still does, have strong feelings for you with this passion card. However, I feel like there's a lot going on in their energy. With this breakups and makeups card, I feel like their energy tends to be very inconsistent. I feel like, especially with the drama card, if you see that there's this mask here, I feel like this is kind of this person has a tendency to wear a mask in their relationships, not necessarily because they're trying to be manipulative, but because they're afraid of vulnerability. So I feel like this person puts on kind of a front, and then as things start to deepen in a connection, they start to, get afraid, essentially, that mask is going to come off. You're going to see who they really are. And I feel like a lot of that is very driven, well, I know just from understanding human behavior that a lot of that is very driven by insecurity. And I think that the thing that this reading is really trying to point out, or like the focus of it is going to be on this mirroring here, and what it is really kind of going on below the surface of the connection. So let's look a little bit more at this. Let's look at the truth of this connection between you and this person, Leo. Interference again. Oh. Dream come true. Patience with deja vu. So I feel like there is a cycle that keeps existing in this connection. I feel like there is a lot of potential here, and I do feel like both people recognize that potential and see it for this to essentially be a dream come true kind of situation. And I feel like you've been trying to be very patient about that, kind of like, doing what you can to understand this person, have empathy for where they're at, things of that nature. But I actually feel that Spirit is asking you to look at what is happening in this connection in a little bit of a different way, because whatever cycle is showing up is actually interfering with your dream come true. So the cycle, there's some sort of cycle that needs to be broken that is keeping you from being able to have the love that you deserve and desire. So with that being said, we're going to break this down even more. Let's look at the overall theme of this connection here for you, Leo. I was disillusioned. I feel like there was some sort of an illusion that you have held or maybe even still hold about this person. When we understand, or when we have love for another person, I feel like we tend to understand why they do a lot of the things that they do, and we have a lot of empathy and patience, and we let a lot of things slide that we typically wouldn't, when it comes to our relationships, but because it's like this person, or because you feel a specific way about this person, like we have a tendency to kind of hold on to that potential, but not stand our ground as much when there are situations that aren't necessarily super fair for us. You have the feelings are mutual with second option here. I feel like in this connection, you often are feeling not like a priority, but like an option, almost like, this person comes around when it feels convenient. I feel like there's more to the story than that though. Like, I don't feel like this person is necessarily doing things to intentionally be hurtful. Like I kind of mentioned when we were looking at overall energy, I do feel like this person has a lot of insecurity that really drives their decision making. Now, that's not an excuse, right? I mean, we're all adults here. We all have trauma and baggage and insecurities and things of that nature. Like, you're never going to meet someone that hasn't been through some stuff. But it's about how we handle those that really indicates whether or not we're capable of having and maintaining a healthy relationship. Because trying to find someone without any insecurity, trauma, or baggage, like, that's impossible. But it's about trying to find someone who is like dealing with their own stuff and doesn't allow that to be an excuse for poor behavior or unhealthy actions in their relationships. Let's dive into this a little bit more, Leo, looking at your side of things. You have euphoria with separation. This is Leo's side of the connection to the person they are dealing with. Oh no, my dogs are barking. There's a lot going on outside right now because there's some thunderstorms in our area and our dogs have been kind of freaking out all day. Leo's side of this connection. They don't get scared, but they get very reactive. Every little sound becomes something to bark at. All right, Judgment, Strength in reverse, Hierophant, the Star, the Seven of Swords. Could be dealing with a fire sign with this King of Wands energy here, but you don't have to be. I just felt like this is kind of a fiery energy. I just saw air sign energy too, so you could be dealing with Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. Okay. Yeah, there it is. I knew we were going to hear it. Okay. So when it comes to this connection, I feel like the hardest thing that is... Hang on one second. Hey, Ellie. No, thank you. I think the hardest thing for you has been that you do... see and maybe even have experienced a lot of really wonderful feelings and experiences with this person. I feel like there are times where things genuinely feel like, and I know I already said this, but like genuinely feel like the best you've ever had. You know, when this person is, being real, when they're present, especially in the early stages of a connection when, everyone's on their best behavior. I feel like there was a period of time where things were very much, aligned with what it is that you were looking for. But then I feel like as time started to go on, I feel like things started to kind of shift. And with the Seven of Swords, I feel like certain things that were hidden started to be revealed. How this person reacts to triggers, how this person handles conflict, how they allow their insecurities to drive them, things of that nature, which happens in all relationships. You reach a period where the honeymoon phase wears off, no one's on their best behavior anymore, and how people respond to uncomfortable situations, trauma, triggers, conflict, whatever, that starts to arise. And that's typically when relationships it's kind of like the make or break point of relationships, when relationships either fall apart or when they're able to, truly develop into something really good. And that point is really dependent on the level of healing that both people have done. Because how both people in the moment handle traumas, triggers, and insecurities determines whether or not they are coming from a place of believing they are worthy and deserving of love despite their trauma, triggers, or insecurities, or still allowing trauma, triggers, and insecurities to make decisions for them. And I feel like in this connection, a lot of things kind of happened that made you feel a little bit powerless. Like, I do feel like this is one of those connections that became very draining over time. And I think that, what I'm kind of gathering is that there was this energy of really holding on for that those really good feelings, even though there were a lot of times where you were not feeling so good. Especially, seeing this moon card here, I feel like there was a lot of fear of like, what would it mean if this connection didn't work out? Because when something's the best that you've ever experienced or ever had, like, you fear losing that because what if nothing better comes along? Like, that's a completely valid and understandable fear. That doesn't make it true though, right? It means that the fear can be real, but it doesn't have to be a truth. And I think that, there was kind of this cycle of like hoping things were going to improve, hoping things were going to get to a better place, but then consistently kind of being disappointed or let down by how things panned out until eventually, a separation occurred. And I think that it's hard because, again, with the Judgment in reverse, I do feel like there's still this energy of seeing things through kind of like rose-colored glasses. I feel like you see this person through the energy of empathy and understanding. And that is not a bad thing, okay? Seeing people through the lens of empathy, understanding, and love is not a bad thing. It becomes a bad thing for us when we tolerate mistreatment or unhealthy behavior because of that love and empathy. That's where empathy starts to turn into toxic empathy. And toxic empathy is where we're being so empathetic toward another person that we're lacking empathy for our own life and experiences. And so I think that how things, unfolded obviously weren't what you wanted or what you expected, but I do feel like there is a reason as to why this happened. I feel like there's a deeper purpose. I feel like Spirit is trying to drive you into seeing some sort of a deeper purpose here. I just feel like, I don't know. I feel like there's a need to look at this from a different perspective, for sure. So let's break this down even further. It's like an onion, just peeling back layers to get to the root of what's really going on. All right, this person's energy toward you, Leo. This person's energy toward Leo. I said King of Wands, but it's in reverse. Action or lack of action from a place of insecurity. And Page of Wands here. Ace of Wands, Five of Pentacles in reverse. Okay, I understand what this is saying, right? Yeah, High Priestess in reverse. Okay, wait. Oh, yeah. Okay, Five of Swords. Is there anything else we need to know about this person's energy? That Leo needs to know about this person's energy? Okay. At the very beginning of this, when I started tapping into their energy, I immediately felt someone, like this energy of just being very defensive, like very on guard, expecting people to hurt them, expecting people to do them wrong, expecting the worst out of relationships. And not necessarily from a place of like anything that you've done, but from a place of what they've experienced in the past. So I feel like this person has had a lot of not so great things, not so great experiences when it comes to love and relationships. And that is where a lot of the insecurity stems from. Whether there was betrayal in the past, whether there was abandonment, maybe even starting in childhood, like seeing the Page of Wands, I do feel like they maybe carry some inner child wounding with them too, which again, we all do. But I feel like the actions that they took in this connection, it's either the actions or the interactions, were all coming from this place of wounding and insecurity. And it's hard because I don't feel like this person necessarily wants to lose you or like wanted to lose you. But I feel like the actions that they took went against how they really felt, which is actually pretty common. Insecurity, traumas, triggers, they can be incredibly powerful when unhealed. When they are left unhealed, they will make decisions for us in relationships. If you think of it this way, it's like, somebody who has a deep fear of failure won't take the leap towards something that could potentially lead to a success, or will self-sabotage in some sort of way because they're so afraid of failure they would rather just fail than actually reach that failure. That same kind of thing can be applied in relationships. When people struggle with self-confidence or insecurity or whatever the case is, they make decisions from that place of how to protect themselves from furthering that wound. But it ultimately puts them in a position of doing things to protect them from what's actually best for them. People talk a lot about, I hear it all the time, oh, this person was a narcissist, oh, they're very narcissistic, whatever. And I am not here to diagnose anybody, okay? I don't like that word because I think it's very, very common to misuse it. But I have really learned that people who do tend to exhibit narcissistic traits are not coming from a place of like a grand sense of self, because I think a lot of times it's like you think narcissists, like, oh, they only love themselves. Actually, it's a very, very it's a lack of love for oneself so much that they have to build an identity that they cling to, that if anything threatens that identity, then their whole world starts to crumble. So narcissists, or people who exhibit narcissistic traits, don't make selfish decisions because they're trying to harm others for the most part. Maybe sometimes they do, okay? But for the most part, it's coming from a place of self-protection. It's coming from a place of a need for validation. It's coming from a place of insecurity and and essentially like a lack of love for oneself. And I feel like in this connection, this person did a lot of things that were like really not okay. And I don't want to take away from that experience or like make you think that it's an excuse. I think that understanding why someone makes certain decisions can really help us with our healing and with understanding why something happened, so that we can create healthier relationships for ourselves in the future. And for me, I was and have experienced abusive and not so great relationships with people who did exhibit narcissistic traits, and they taught me a lot about myself. And that's why, and I said it at the beginning of the reading, I feel like this connection is really trying to help you in a lot of ways through the mirroring. And one of the relationships that I was in, literally the worst relationship I'd ever been in my life, I'm actually the most grateful for, and not necessarily for that person, but for the experience of healing that came after that relationship, because the way that person treated me was a direct reflection of what I had been taught I was deserving of, and in a lot of ways, the ways in which I treated myself. The way that person made decisions from a place of insecurity pointed me to my own insecurities. The way that person, tried to knock me down showed me how the value that I held for myself. And I don't blame myself, okay, for that relationship or the way that I was treated. But it really, really helped me on my healing journey to understand that the way that person behaved and the way that they treated me in that connection had nothing to do with me, and everything to do with them and their lack of healing and their lack of growth, and their lack of essentially like depth in their own conscious experience. And that really helped me essentially deepen a love for myself in a way that I never really had, that eventually led me to my husband. So I think that, in this connection, looking at just everything, it's like, yes, I think they did have valid, very real feelings for you, but I feel like they were coming from this place of disliking themselves so much that it almost is like they wrote off this connection's potential before it even got a chance to become what it had the potential to be. And that is a reflection of their lack of healing, their need for healing, their need for growth. But we're not pointing fingers here, right? We're looking at all three sides. So then when somebody has ways in which they're needing to heal, grow, evolve, expand in some way, they're mirroring to us ways in which we need to heal, grow, evolve, and expand. And with that relationship that I was dealing with, this person treated me, so poorly, but I let it happen. I didn't set boundaries. I stayed, I continued to invest. I continued to pour my heart, mind, body, and soul into somebody who didn't treat me well. And I think that sometimes we think that our power is about getting other people to do what we want, getting other people to love us or to value us or choose us in some way. But our power is actually about how we show up for ourselves despite how other people treat us. And when we learn to choose ourselves, to value ourselves, to love ourselves despite how, much we love and care about another person, that's where we really find the love for ourselves. And that ultimately is going to weave out the people who aren't able to meet you where you deserve to be met, because other people don't heal for us. They don't change for us. A lot of people don't grow at all. They just get older. And I think that I've really learned that when it comes to attracting the relationships that we truly deserve, the universe often puts people in our path that we are so incredibly drawn to teach us to love ourselves, to teach us to choose ourselves, to value ourselves, and to love ourselves over the potential of another person, because I think a lot of times we can know, it's like deep down we're like, well, I know that they have feelings for me and I know that they really care, but they don't show it. Well, how they really feel does not matter. How they are capable of showing up or how they are choosing to show up is what matters. Their level of healing and the way that they handle their traumas, insecurities, and triggers is going to dictate whether or not they are going to be healthy or capable of having and sustaining a healthy relationship. And when I started, getting back into the dating pool after I went through that relationship, my standards had really changed, because it was no more about what I was looking for in a person in the way that I had used to. It was more, I was looking for someone who was willing to grow with me, who was able to communicate, who was doing the work to handle their stuff, who could take accountability, who were honest, things of that nature. And I feel like this person is not a lot of those things. And it's easy to look at it and be like, oh, this is all their fault. And if they would have done these things, then this would have been good. But how powerless does that make you feel, right? Because then in that moment, you feel like you have absolutely no power and control over how you're treated or what you're capable of receiving. So I feel like Spirit is trying to shift this mirror and ask you to look at what this is trying to do to help you heal, to help you grow, evolve, and expand in some way, so that you can find the love that you truly deserve, regardless of whether or not this person chooses to heal. Which is where your power really lies. It's knowing that nobody holds the key to your happiness but you have to be willing to take that key and to, turn it in the knob to open that potential. And I think that there's a cycle that keeps appearing in your life, that this person is really reflecting back at you. And on the other side of that cycle is the dream come true, is the relationship that you are truly, truly looking for. Again, whether it's in this person or not. So with that being said, because oh my goodness, did we get deep there, we're going to hop on over to the extended. We're going to look deeper into this. You have deja vu with dream come true. We're going to look at the deeper purpose and the best way for you to move forward in order to align further with your higher self. Thank you so much, Leo, as always, for your support of my channel. I do obviously hope that this reading helped and resonated with you in a way that you were needing today. And as always, I wish you nothing but love and healing and all of the wonderful things that you deserve and desire on your journey moving forward. All right, bye, Leo.